everyone. Welcome back to another episode of 52 Weeks, 52 Amazing Authors. And I am here today with author Regina LaFrance, who is the author of a book called Shayla. And I will tell you, when I first went to look for the book, I was like, what's Shayla, right? And I would Google the name. But this book is author Regina LaFrance's Public Outcry. And if you've been tuning in to the episodes, you see that this book is in alignment with this track that we happen to be on right now. So let's dig in and let's hear from our author. How are you today, Regina?
I am doing well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome. So tell our listening, viewing audience a little bit about your background.
My background is I grew up in Portugal in an island. And as a little girl, I grew up in a farm and I was a very happy little girl from the age 6 to age 9. And at age 9, the local priest of our village began to molest me, and he molested me throughout the year. And when I was 10 years old, he attacked me and violated me brutally, sexually, and physically. I was very, very hurt. A lot of things happened from that incident. And my book, I call it the book that tells all because everything in great detail is there. I can talk about it, but I like to move forward to talk about where I am today. So maybe another time, if we have more time, I can definitely talk about it. But so during my teenage years, my 20s, 30s, and 40s, I lived a life of chaos. I was always on the outside happy and energetic, always had good jobs, and even bought my own house in my 40s. But in my head, I was always sad and depressed, and I always had self doubt, and I always hated myself. My face, especially. And in 2015, I had a flashback when one of my clients told me that her little girl didn't want to go to summer camp that summer. And the little girl would just cry and say, Mommy, don't make me go. And the little girl would never tell her why. So when it came time to actually signed up for camp and everything, my client was super stressed out because she didn't have other plans for the child to go for the summer, and the child just refused to go. And it brought back memories from when I didn't want to go to music lessons. And I pleaded with my mother not to let me go. And she said I had to go. She said I had to go because she and my father believed it was good for me to learn. And they were so proud of me for being so smart and being able to learn something new because I was always very interested in learning things. Unfortunately, I never learned how to play an instrument because those were the times where the priest would molest me. And between the ages of 9 and 10 years old, I remember it all. But I lived a life of chaos. Everything changed. I no longer had interest in working on the farm with my father or being a good girl, which that's what my father always encouraged me to be, a good girl. And so when I had my flashback in 2015, I was shocked that other children are suffering. I don't know why, but I never really thought that it happened to other children. I thought it happened just to me because I was ugly or because I wasn't good enough, because that's what the priest told me. So,
I
so
I'm 50 years old and I'm sitting here feeling like I'm naive to what has been happening in the world. And I
right.
wonder how many other parents were making their children do XYZ activities and the kids kept crying for help and the parents didn't hear them.
That's right. When I sat down to write my book, I was so upset with that little girl that didn't want to go to camp. I wanted to grab her and take her somewhere and nurture her to the point where she would feel comfortable telling me. And I started thinking about when I asked my mother not to let me go. My mother didn't have an advocate, a person like me or like you or some other people that were trying to create awareness. My mother never had that. Had she had a person create awareness in her world to say, if your child cries that she or he don't want to go somewhere, you must pay attention. Don't make that child go anywhere if they cry that they don't want to go. Because what I see and what I know about children is that they love to go places. They love to go things, do things. They love to learn something new. And children are so naive that they will go with anybody. That's why nowadays we tell children not to go with strangers because they don't know. They don't filter the danger. So they'll go with a stranger anywhere if they make it sound good or they say they're going to play or whatever it is. So if a child says that they don't want to go, we need to sit down and brainstorm and create awareness. And I'm very passionate about this. So that was the reason why I began to write in 2015. But I didn't know how to put a book together, and English is my second language, and I didn't have the money at the time to hire a ghostwriter, and I just put it away. So about almost 3 years ago, a woman who is now my friend, I met her and I just casually asked, "What do you do for a living?" And she said, "I am a book editor." And I said, "Oh, maybe someday you can edit my book." And she said, "Shut up." You wrote a book? I said, I tried to, but she said, I want to see it. And this was a Saturday. And on Monday, she was at my house. And she said, tell me everything. And on Sunday, it took me all day to go find that old laptop, fire it up. And then I had to use the CD-ROM that went on the side there, and I prayed that that thing would work. And that's how I got the first original document of 8,000 words. And I was able to read it to her, and she said, Regina, you have to sit down and start today. The world needs to know how you feel about creating awareness. I said, but I don't know how to write a book. And she said, sit down and write. That's all you need to know. Let the professionals clean it up later. So I did. I sat down and I wrote. I wrote a lot. So there's a lot more. We'll probably in the future use it as bonus pieces growing up and all that. But we have now, took me about a year to write it all. And then I did hire the perfect mentor to bring me to where we are today. It took another year to clean it all up and do one chapter at a time. And I wrote the whole thing. All the professional did was clean it up for me, make sure that everything, of course, it's perfect. Then we went on to create the website. We did the the book trailer,
Mhm.
which first I wanted the book trailer to be a celebration of emotional freedom because once I started writing this book, my secret was out and I began to feel alive. I
Mm.
let it out. I let it out. I had so much shame. Even in the beginning, when I met with my friend now, her name is Rhonda. When I met with Rhonda in the beginning, I told her it was a bad dream I had. And then another friend, I told my friend that it was a little girl that lived in the island. I didn't want to say it was me. I didn't want my husband to know that those things had happened to me. I was afraid that he would think less of me. And I was so wrong because that's how I felt for 50 years.
Mm.
So when I did I want to do a celebration book trailer, and we brainstormed, and I began to look in the mirror and nurture my little girl inside. And I pulled out this picture, and I loved this picture so much, but I used to call her her. She didn't have a name. She wasn't me in my brain because I grew up to be a different person than what she was intended to be. So I kept her on my desk and I now see that it's me and I love she has a name now. It's me. And I went inside and I nurtured my inner child. So in the book trailer, I run to the scene of the crime where my inner child is still there and it's still hurting. She never healed from that. So I rescued her out of there and she and I became one. And then we celebrated. And it's a wonderful feeling for me that I was able to do that. And so moving forward from that, and that's another mission of mine. So create awareness to parents or anyone raising children. And equally as important, I want to reach out to people, men and women, that suffered trauma when they were little or when they were younger, or even young adults, and let them know what I did. And what I did was look in the mirror and say, self, the people that love you tell you that you are beautiful. that you are amazing, that you are worth a wonderful life. Peace and balance is a birthright that you have. So I had to go and say it over and over and over again and again. And then when I began to believe that about myself, I had to learn how to handle the triggers that show up all the time. And the triggers can show up in a form of a stranger or at work or at your house with your spouse or with whoever you're with. It could be a group of friends or a group of strangers, and someone says something and you immediately feel the stab, if you will. And I used to always give it right back. Oh
Wow.
no, you're not going to stab on me because I know now. Well, that's another lesson I had to learn. When I feel or I see or I hear or I have that feeling that someone is on the attack, well, I learned to recognize those triggers. And now that I made a conscious decision to retire my victim badge, and I learned
Mm,
that
mm.
that's right. I
Say
learned
it
that
again. Say it again. Someone needs to hear that
yes,
again. What did you retire?
I retired my victim badge and I did that for her, me, my heart, my soul. And I told myself that once a soldier or a firefighter or a police person or whoever retires, they no longer work. They are retired, they are unavailable. So for me, the day I retired that victim badge, and I told that priest that he does not belong in my mind and that he has absolutely no power over me because the victim badge is retired. I can no longer use it.
Yes,
And
yes.
I have now my Triumph badge. And I don't have one on today, but I always have like a little heart, or friends of mine always give me a little heart of some sort. And I love it so much because a heart, I have a little rock heart that sometimes I put in my pocket, like an excellence coin
Mhm.
that the military offers or other jobs offer. So my rock heart is just a reminder of how I have found the balance and the peace, and the triggers do not belong. They live there, and I know I am very aware of them,
But they don't
but
control you.
no, they don't because I recognize them and they are not welcome. It's not easy, especially if someone offends you. It could be your spouse, it could be your parent, or it could be anyone really. Your best friend or your sibling in the workplace sometimes. But when you have that confidence from within, you do not have to reply.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh, it's been 15 minutes and you have dropped so many pearls, gems, words of wisdom. I will tell you, when I wrote my book, the first 3 chapters, I spoke to Zoom. I wasn't on camera, but I was just speaking the words that came from my heart. And I didn't realize how freeing that experience was going to be because I was talking, I was crying, sometimes I was screaming, but I was shedding all of these things from my past that was holding me hostage. There was a point in my life, in my adult life, after having a child, where I decided I didn't want to be here anymore. And I tried to take my life. And so when I spoke those words about that experience, right, and they're in the book, it set me free. But what I realized is that as individuals who are on the other side of whatever the thing is that we experience, we live to talk about it, and we have to tell others because there are others that are going through it. There are parents who are listening to this right now. Their child is experiencing something similar, and via you, they can recognize the signs. Because you're
Yes,
right, kids want to go, they want to do the things. But if they're adamant about not wanting to go, there's a why. And as a parent, you
that's
got to
right.
put yourself to the side and figure out, why does my child truly not want to go? It's not like, I'm playing sick and I don't want to go to school that day, right? But if it's something that you know is fun, like camp, right? There's a reason why they don't want to go. And it's
That's right.
deep rooted in something that you have to figure out.
That's right. And another thing too that I want, oh, and going back to the beginning when I started talking about this, I was like a little mouse. I was very afraid to say the wrong word, or very afraid to because again, English is my second language, so in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking I'm going to make a mistake. But now, because of people like you, I have gained that confidence to say, if you are raising a child, or it could be if you're in a daycare services or in a teacher or whatever, if you have children around you, watch out for the signs that child is giving you. Now, if you are a parent, or again, a person that has been hurt when you were young and you are not emotionally prepared to give this child what that child needs, the vicious cycle is never going to stop. So I want so bad to show everyone that if you just take time and you think, you have two of these and two of these and one of these. So there's a reason why we have to do more of this, a lot more of this, and very reserved on what comes out of here.
Yeah.
Because when I was through my, not so much my teens, I didn't do much as a teenager. I didn't belong and whatnot. But 20s, 30s, and 40s, guess what? This was always going. I wanted to be the center of attention. I wanted people to love me. I was the best at everything. I made the best food. I challenged myself to make the best recipes. I was the best at the gym. I even wanted to run and be the best, fastest runner. I was the best, and I drove the best car, and I made a point to buy a house on my own just because I could. But guess what? There was a lot of noise coming out of here, but there was very little coming in here and through here. I never really looked around me to see, what are you doing? I had
Mm.
one guy tell me one time, because we were in a meeting and he and his wife was there, and I always interrupted him, or the others, because I want to make my point. And he said, Regina, you gotta remember, other people want to talk too. And I didn't like it, but I started to listen. I started to listen, and I said, wow, I do interrupt people because I just wanted to be heard so bad. But now I want to hear what other people have to tell me. And I am not a trained professional to train anyone, but I can definitely show everyone what I have done. And the miracles of opening up and receiving wonderful things, the miracles and the result, however, I call it divine because I'm very connected with nature and what's around me and myself. I open myself to receive love. The miracles and the results are numerous. People
Wow.
see me coming, and I have people come across the supermarket just to tell me they were watching me, and I just bring in this, like I walk around like a little feather, walking, moving around. And of course, I make a connection immediately, and I tell them, thank you so much for that. And I always make sure that one, give somebody a compliment, and two, every day of the week, I make a point to give someone something.
Wow. Wow.
And sometimes I run out of time, or I forgot, and I go to my husband, I give him a tight, tight hug, and he's, well, what do you want for this? I said, I just gotta give you a big hug because I didn't give anyone today anything. And I'll give someone a phone call. I'll send someone a wonderful text telling, reminding them that they're wonderful, or little hearts. If I go to an estate sale or a yard sale, or maybe even just stuff I have around the house, I package up it real sweet in a little pretty box, and I always give some. I have them available to give to somebody. It could be a stranger, and that makes their day,
You
and I
never
love it.
know. You never know what someone is going through. So
That's
it's
right.
for you to have something taken away from you when you were such a young child, but to now be, a more seasoned adult who is giving so much love to others. You are impacting others in a way that no one could ever really truly explain. And it's
And
so amazing that your heart is so big. It's bigger than this world.
and that's my mission. And everything else will come.
Wow. So you got this book out, right? You got the trailer, podcast. What's coming up for the future?
Well, when I sat down to write my book, I wrote down, this book will change lives, and this book will be a movie.
I'm going to be able to say I interviewed you.
So I am open to receive the results of my manifesting for it to be a movie very, very soon, possibly next month. I'm gonna start on my second book. And my second book is about a woman that suffered a great deal, and she wasn't sexually or physically, it was mostly emotional abuse by her parents, and how Shayla and her met at some point.
Wow.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
So that's what's
Wow.
coming. I'm going to continue to promote. I would love to do speaking engagements where I come in and I sit down with a group of people that are looking for answers, and I can tell them, this is what I've done. Look in the mirror and have a talk with yourself and know where you want to go. And for the longest time, many years, I hated my face. And I have that scar here that happened that night when the priest hit me and I fell on the edge of the shovel on the ground. I cut myself, and for 50 years, I saw that scar every day. And now I don't even think about it anymore. It doesn't really exist because he does not win space in my soul, heart, my mind. I'm all about now beautiful things, beautiful days, and I want to make a difference in people's lives, and I want parents to be aware of signs. And that's my number one mission. Of course, I take care of myself, I take care of my husband, and I work hard to balance everything. But when you have peace in your mind, everything else comes one day at a time and one task at a time.
You know what? Peace in your mind is something that's so important. Last year, I decided that I was going to be comfortable being uncomfortable because I had gotten too comfortable. And
Right?
in this space of being uncomfortable and going after the things that I know I deserve to impact, right, the masses, it has given me this sense of peace that I didn't realize I needed. Others around me saw that I was kind of like, I was still existing, but somewhat, on edge. But now I'm just like, the peace, the peace that passes all understanding is what I'm experiencing. And it's such a great place to be because I feel like I've just shedded all of this fear, anger. I've forgiven myself for taking those 30 Tylenol, right? I forgive me. And I think one thing that others don't realize, when you need to forgive others, it's not for them, it's
That's
for
right.
you.
That's right.
You are forgiving them for you.
I have, so real quick, this imaginary bubble around me, and only love is allowed.
Mm.
And we have, well, we, because we call it the hummingbirds group because we're all like hummingbirds all over the place, but we love each other. We have this group of soul sisters that we connect when we can. We get together, or we have this group that we either text or send pictures or whatever it is, and there's nothing but love. And the soul sisters, is the group is growing because we just love each other so much, and no matter what it is you can bring to the table, and most of the time it's fun and trust, and I think every woman should have a soul sister, and then from there it grows. Not everyone can be a soul sister. You have to
Yes.
love and be humble and kind.
Yes, I love it. So listen, we need to make sure everyone knows where they can purchase a copy of the book.
So bookstores probably will be carrying the book. This just happened 2 days ago. Obviously, Amazon, my website, lafrancemedia.com. So it's lamedia.com, France like the country. And it's out there. It's global. Obviously,
Wow.
Amazon would be the place to go, and the website. And let's spread the good news. I
Wow.
want to know how my book impacted you. Yes, my book is sad and dark. However, the second part of the book, it's all about what I've done. The love technique, which I apply, be in a love mindset to keep yourself balanced and cared for, first by self and then everyone else around you. If they belong in a bubble, they're going to care for you. And if they don't belong in a bubble, they're not allowed in. So be very careful. It might be someone you love very much. They're not allowed in your bubble. And when you don't allow them in a bubble, you don't have to say a thing. It's in your mind. Always be very polite, always be very kind to all people, but know when you can or cannot allow someone in your bubble.
I love it. So my grandfather is 103. and I interviewed him last year. And I asked him, what's the one thing that you want others to know? And he said, love everybody, be kind to everyone.
That's
And
right.
so, after 103 years of age, he'll be 104 this year. I know it to be true because how else? Because you live that long. And he's always calling others saying, if you need me, call me, right? At 103, if you need me, call me.
That's
So
right.
that love is what we all need. And I believe the love, forgiveness is what we need to move forward because our world is just in such turmoil. And
That's right.
love to me is the basic foundation to move us
Yes.
out of those spaces. We
Yes.
have to have love. That's the reason why our heart beats, right?
That's
Love.
right.
But you got to love yourself first so that you can then love others.
That's right. And be careful not to judge. It's
Mm,
not your job to judge. If you don't like something, go inside and apply that love technique to yourself so you don't fall into that trap. The judge will judge other people someday, but
mm.
you're not the judge.
You're not the judge.
Don't allow the people in if you don't trust them, but don't judge.
All right. Well, listen, it has been such an honor to hear you talk about your journey, your book. There are so many lives that are going to be touched by this. I personally can't wait for the movie to come out because I want to see this play out on the big screen and just sit there and smile and say, I did interview. I did.
And if you ever want me back, or if you want to know how I am doing in, let's say, a year from now, 6 months from now, I'm here to spread the good news.
Well, you know what? It's so funny you mentioned that because I had an epiphany during the last interview that I did that, 2024, I'm doing 52 authors, 52 weeks. But next year, I need to do Where Are They Now? Right?
That's
Because
right.
then we all will be growing and impacting lives, and we got to keep this going.
That's right.
All right. Well, everyone, this has been another episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. I just finished chatting it up with the amazing author and soon to be big screen movie producer, Regina LaFrance. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to all of the amazing things that are to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much.